Okay guys, what's up? This is Tristan here. I'm back with another video. So today, we are going to be reacting to the Verge's PC build. Um, this is actually just a re-upload, because, funny story, they removed the original video. I'm like, WTF yo, but yeah, it doesn't matter. So, let's get to this, I guess.
So a few years ago, TC, our managing editor, built a gaming desktop, but it's kind of out of date, and it's definitely not going to hold up for Battlefield 5. So let's build a new one. You can build a gaming desktop for around $1,000, but I want to go all out, so I spent around $2,000. PC like this is going to be able to play most games at ultra settings. So what do you need to build a desktop? Well, of course, first you need a table. Preferably
Duh. I mean, a table is not required. I mean, you can build on the floor. Hell, I even like worked on a computer on my bed, which is not recommended, but I have before. Um, yeah, I even worked on my lap, on chairs. But I think you guys get the point.
not metal. If it's going to be metal, have an anti-static working surface layered on top of it, a thermal.
If it's metal, it's most likely going to be fine, but make sure that it won't. I mean, if it's metal, I'm sure it's fine. That's what I'm trying to say.
Paste applicator, an Allen wrench, some tweezers to tighten up the wires, a Swiss Army.
Did he just call zip ties tweezers? Does this dude for real just call zip ties tweezers? And you don't need that. I mean, you don't need this part. Because that part is for like straightening out the thermal paste on your CPU. You don't need that. Because the way that you're supposed to do it is that you're supposed to get like a little piece size to drop onto the center of the IHS, and when you apply the cooler onto it, it would spread out flat. And you don't need an Allen wrench. Like hell, all you really need is just a Phillips head screwdriver, like I have right here. Like they even come for like $1. You can get one of these, or just use one of these. Just use whatever screwdriver that you have laying around. I mean, like, come on, dude, you're better than this.
Army knife, which hopefully has a Phillips head screwdriver in it.
Did you just say have a Swiss Army knife that hopefully has one in it? What?
Some tweezers to tighten up the wires, a Swiss Army knife, which hopefully has a Phillips head screwdriver in it.
Yep, he said that. Like I just said. Love head screwdriver, that's all you need. And plus some cases or some power supplies, they do include a couple of zip ties and some like cable clips as well. Depending on which case and which power supply that you guys use, but some of them do, which it's yeah. Let's just continue on.
And last but not least, an anti-static bracelet, which is to protect you and the parts.
Those are not required, and if that is an anti-static bracelet, then where the hell is like the little clip thing, you know? I mean, where the hell is that? I mean, you're not working on carpet or, you know, or stuff like that. You're gonna be fine. You don't need those. Those are not required by any ways necessary. I don't know why he is doing that.
These are the parts you're going to need, but more importantly, before we get there, we need to understand what these parts are doing and how they interact with one another. To better understand the parts that make up a desktop, let's try to understand them individually. The processor is like the computer's brain, a base of calculations that control everything the computer does. The motherboard is like the foundation, serving as a main structure for all other parts to be added to. It also understands where to find deals on new parts. We have a lot of boxes and a lot of PC parts, so it's best if you unbox them, isolate the parts that you really need, place items into the case, and make sure that they all fit.
Did he just put the PSU, the fan facing inside the case? That's not good. That's not recommended. Because you'll be starving it for airflow, and some of those things they can get hot if you put them under load. And I've even seen like cheapo ones, they just catch on fire. And some of those they actually go on full speed whenever they don't, and that can be a problem. I mean, how he has it set up right there, that can be a really huge problem, because, I mean, there is safety measures that it will just turn off if it's actually get a little bit too hot, but that is not recommended way. So you face it the other way, if the fan is sticking out, and it will just grab like fresh air from there. If you guys are getting what I'm trying to say.
It and then start working. And now we're really going to start building by adding the motherboard in. Some notes about installing motherboards: they're really delicate, you should be really careful with them, and screw in with confidence, but also don't screw in too hard.
Screw in with confidence. Look, this guy doesn't know what he's saying, so when you're screwing it down, just screw it down until you feel like a little bit of resistance, and then you're good. Just go to the next screw. I don't get why he's saying screw with confidence, but let's see.
Otherwise you could crack the board. I chose Asus's Z370 motherboard for two main
Asus Z370
reasons. One, it has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and also it has support for NVMe SSDs, meaning you can get really fast
So say it as NVMe M.2 SSDs. You gotta be more specific right there, bud. And those boards are good, but yeah.
SSDs that are really easy to install. Pay close attention to the brace that goes at the back of the computer.
Did you just call the I/O shield a brace?
Install. Pay close attention to the brace that goes at the back.
Oh, bruh, that's not called a brace. That's called an I/O shield. I mean, but some of those can be a pain in the ass to install. If you have like a really old case that came out in like 2000. Okay, guys, I'm back. I had to do something for a sec, so let's continue on.
Back of the computer, you always have to make sure that you really hammer it in, because there's no screw. It really just has to go outside of the case and clasp on.
Hammer it in. Those things can be hard to install, but all you gotta do is just press on the four corners to like pinch it in, or however you say it. But those things can be a hell to install, so I can get a bunch of crap right there.
Onto the frame. And this is very important because otherwise you can't align the motherboard correctly with the holes. We're just going to start installing all 8 screws.
There he is using that stupid Swiss Army knife. It's gonna take him.
So next we're going to install the RAM on the motherboard. I chose Corsair's 16GB Vengeance LED RAM for 2 main reasons. One, it has LEDs and we do like lights in our gaming desktops. Secondly, it's pretty fast RAM. It's 2666 megahertz, I believe.
2666 megahertz is not that fast on DDR4. Hell, even I can run faster than that, and I'm in track. In DDR3, which is the system I'm using, that'd be phenomenal, like, for real. Because my system is the i3-2120 and a GTX 650 with 4 gigs of DDR3. I think it's 1066 or somewhere around that area. But that'd be phenomenal, but 2666 on DDR4 is not that fast.
So it's pretty fast, and this motherboard supports that speed, which is most important.
I think a lot of motherboards
Open the slots first, and just aligning the stick with the middle of the strip, not with the end, and just lining that up with the logo. So once you hear that solid clasp and you don't see the gold connectors on the side anymore, that's when you know the RAM is in. Step 3, we're going to install.
Did this guy just do that? Look right there. So, this guy just killed dual channel support. I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have done that, but this guy just killed dual channel support. Because you're supposed to leave a space in between one of them. Like for example, it's A1, B1, A2, and then B2. I hope my camera picked that up. Some motherboards actually do this kind of differently. They would actually have colors that actually co-assign with them. The only time I actually seen that, I was working on an old Dell pre-built, and the RAM, how you installed it was actually kind of weird. It was like two white dims and like 2 black slots, and you had to line them up that way. It was kind of weird, but anyways, on this computer, that's how I done it. It was one stick right here, blank, another stick. That's how you're supposed to do it if you want dual channel. The reason you write that you would put it like that if you're installing 2 extra sticks, like while you're installing it. That you should never do that, and that will slash your CPU performance by lots. So, rip dual channel support.
Install the hard drive, or in this case, the NVMe SSD. I chose this format of solid state drive so that I could input it into the motherboard without having to worry about extra wires or putting it in.
It's just an SSD. You can just find them anywhere. Plus, he's doing the order wrong too. Before I would even think about installing the motherboard, I would actually install the CPU, the RAM, and maybe like an M.2 SSD or NVMe SSD if I had one, and then do it like that. Ooh, don't know what just happened.
In a separate part of the case and just getting really messy. This is from Kingston, and it's 480 gigabytes, so it's not a lot, but you can.
He did not install that right, because on those type of drives there's actually a screw. So you take off the cover and then there's a screw. Just to take off that screw, install the drive, and then screw it back in. It looks like he did not take out that screw, and that might give him an issue, but I did not work with like any of these drives yet, so yeah.
Always upgrade this and swap it out, and it's only held down by one screw and the latch, right? So it's really simple and really straightforward. Speed for gaming is important when it comes to a hard drive. You want files to write quickly and you want games to load quickly, so that's why it's best if you use an SSD. Okay, so step 4, we're going to install the graphics card. I chose PNY's GTX 1080, which is overclocked.
GTX 1080, not a 1080 Ti. Like, I was able to see people that was able to fit in, like, an 8700K with a 1080 Ti. Like, even Strix cards, too. You know, those things are all priced. I mean, some of them can be overpriced, but some of them, I don't know how to say this, but I mean, I was able to, like, fit in Strix cards with 8700Ks. Yeah, let's see how he does this.
Clock. And so it's a pretty easy installation. You're just going to find the gold connectors, and you're going to line.
Those are called PCIe fingers, or that's what I call them.
And this bracket with the back end bracket of your.
I like to say bracket a lot. Those are called PCI slots, and those are called the PCIe shields, I think. I forgot what those are called. I mean, on some other boards, there will be like a little lock that you have to unlock and then push it in. On some other boards, you just push it in firmly until you hear a click. Sometimes. It depends on which motherboard that you're using, though. So I can give them less crap right there.
Or PC case. Now, which lane you choose depends entirely on what other parts you're going to put in the system.
That's not true. Some lanes actually do matter. The top one is usually 16x. One underneath of it is either 16 or 8x, because sometimes it can share lanes with the CPU. And sometimes it goes 16, 8, or 16, 16, 8, and then 4 at the bottom. Sometimes it works like that. It depends which kind of board that you have, and yeah, I mean, 8 to 16 is really not much of a difference, but 4, it would like completely cut your GPU performance in half, because it will cap it. If you guys seen Lyle's PC build, you guys will know what I mean.
I'm just going to pick the top one because the SSD is at the bottom and I don't want to cover it. It's
okay if you cover it. It's not going to cause any problems.
I think it looks nice. Click down. Take your remaining brackets and just put them in the spots that you haven't used.
You didn't have to remove any of those because you weren't installing any cards right there. So you just gave yourself more work. Dumbass.
You don't have to screw these in. They get bolted down by the back end bracket. These little insulating pads, so the enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again.
I think I just missed it here.
And they get bolted down by the back end bracket, and your GPU is installed. Power supply time. I chose Corsair's 850 watt power supply because
you can get away with a 500 watt or a 600 watt. But, alright.
I need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again. So all you have to do is take the brick and make sure that you align it with these little.
Did you just call that a brick? It's called a power supply. WTF, bro.
Insulating pads.
You just call those insulating pads. Those are not insulating pads. Okay. Now, with some power supplies, they would, rattle and stuff like that. Those are just vibration pads, so it'll absorb the vibration from the fan, because sometimes they can make like rattling noises or can just make some noises. Those absorb it so it doesn't cause any noises. It would not short circuit it whatsoever. I mean, if you took apart the power supply and like took out the electrical components out of it, then yeah, of course. But it's inside of that shell or inside of that chassis. But all right. And you're supposed to install the cables before you put in the case, because some cases suck at this. Kind of like the Inwin 805 Infinity and I think the NZXT H500i, H500, not H500i. Sorry, but yeah.
So the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest of the system. So just take it in, slide it in nice and easy.
Is he installing it that way? Okay. You're not supposed to put it in there because how the fan is set up is to take air in. So that thing is going to be starved for cold air. So you're supposed to like turn it, so it's supposed to be facing the other way. Because on most cases, it would have like a little grill where the power supply can get fresh air from. How this guy is doing it, he's doing it completely wrong. You done did messed up, bruh.
Until you have a snug fit, and then shift it to the back and make sure it's right up against the frame. Now you just take the required screws and you tighten and screw in. So next step, we're going to install the CPU cooler. In this case, it's going to go on the top end of the case, and we're just going to have the hose hang out for a little while.
Yeah, but those are not called hose, though. Those are called tubes.
Until we install the processor, which is going to come a little later. Always be sure to try to
install the processor first and then that, because you're going to save yourself less work and will take less time.
Place it in the system first before you install it, because you can see it takes up a lot of space. But in this case, no pun intended, it fits in perfectly.
Ha. Ha ha. Ha. So funny.
Perfectly, and we're going to start screwing it in. And so there's nothing special about this screwing in process. They're just really long screws.
You're supposed to use short screws, not long screws, and he did not install the fans. I think he's trying to install like the fans on top of the case. I mean, some cases do support that, but just don't. Just like hook the fans up. Okay, so right here is the case. Right here's the case. Right here is the radiator, and right underneath of it is the fans right here. That's supposed to be right here, not right here. I mean, some cases do. Some people that actually put fans on both sides, and that's fine. Depends on which case. But on this case, it does not support that, and it's recommended that you put the fans right here on the Corsair 570. I think that's the name, 570X. Yeah.
This is because they go through the entire frame of the cooler, and they take forever.
Duh.
So next up, cables. Every power supply is going to come with a big bag of Velcro cables. It's kind of daunting.
Not every power supply comes with those. Some power supplies are non-modular. So there's modular, which is one he has. Semi-modular is where I think it's where the 24 pin in the EPS is like connected to it, and you cannot take that out. And like fully non-modular is where all the cables are there if you want them there or not. This guy doesn't know what he's saying.
At first, so you always have to find the ones that are going to fit. In this case, you need to match those cables with the correct descriptions on the power supply. Next step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard with a 24-pin cable. We're just matching that cable from the motherboard, threading it through the back, and attaching the case has for any lighting that the case has, the CPU cooler. We'll just toss that out of here.
Whoa, wait.
Will be for the GPU, for any specific ports that the case has, for any lighting that the case has, the CPU cooler, anything else really. We're installing the CPU, the heart of the computer or the brain, depending on how you look at it. So
it's processor and the brain. That's it.
To do this, we're just going to remove the plastic covering that they put on the motherboard.
Fun fact. So you should keep here.
We're just going to take this little plastic part out. We'll just toss that out of here.
Don't toss that out. I was about to say, keep that. Because sometimes damage does happen to your board, and you need to have a warranty. Some vendors, they they actually like require you to have that little socket cover on there, so you can send it back so you can get your board arm made. And some people, they just won't arm made your board without that. If you guys get what I'm trying to say, I mean, yeah.
And now we have an exposed CPU holder, or rather slot.
It's not holder or slot, it's called a socket. I'm a 15-year-old kid, and I actually know more than this dude. This is sad. I mean, this is like absolutely just sad. I mean, no. I've been doing this ever since I was 13. And I still know more than this dude. Jayztwocentz, whoever made your script, they don't even know the basics of this shit. Damn.
On the motherboard. And we're going to use the CPU applicator.
Just drop it in. You don't need that applicator. All you do, so you line the square or the triangle with the triangle on your board, then you install it. That's it. Just drop it right on there. You don't need that holder. This is not required.
This is a special little part that not everyone may get, but this motherboard that we got from ASUS definitely does have. It's called a CPU installation tool. It makes it really useful if you want to install a Core i7 hexa-core CPU. Yeah, we've got one, and it's an 8th generation chip.
Yeah, so it's either an i7 8700K or an i7 8086K. 6 cores are not that impressive. Honestly, if you had like a 128 core or a 64 core or a 32 core, then yeah, I'll give you some bragging rights, but 6, come on. 6 cores even went back to like Ivy Bridge with a 3960X and a 3930, or yeah, the 3930K. I could be wrong. I know there's like other Xeons that came out before that did have 6 cores, if I'm correct, but and it's Intel Confidential as well.
And it's ready to go, and it supports overclocking.
All K or X SKUs support overclocking. I think we all know that.
So what having this little installer does for you is it's basically a brace that you can apply right to the CPU and light it up with the triangles that you'll see on the bottom left corners. And this will make it easier for us to apply it to the motherboard and then apply thermal paste and then apply a CPU cooler on top. And we're just going to carefully lean it down into the system and make sure that everything lines up, and we're going to clasp it down.
Just put it onto the socket and close to retention arm. Yeah. Shit. This guy does not know what he's doing.
On it, and we'll be good to go. So we're about to apply thermal paste to the CPU. Every CPU cooler actually comes with a bit of thermal paste already neat.
Yeah, like some Corsair coolers, they do have those. Just leave it on. That's literally all you need. And if you don't want it, isopropyl alcohol and a paper towel, scrape it off, and then add like icy dibenthronate or some thermal grizzly. Pretty sure that'll get the job done, but
neatly applied in a circle around it, but it's usually not enough. It's good, essentially.
It is enough, actually. Some people was able to hit some nice overclocks by using that cooler with that same thermal paste.
PC building practice to have a little bit extra and layer it on top of the CPU.
You're not supposed to combine two thermal pastes together onto IHS. I just know that's not going to be well because it could cause a couple of air bubbles. And look how he's installing that as well. If you guys are a novice to this, do not do that. Like, you don't have like a Threadripper or like a crazy Xeon. Just one little piece size right on the center, and that's all you need. And when you put it on, it will spread out. I'll show you guys a couple of pictures.
The final portion is to add the CPU cooler to the top end of the processor. So you're going to see that there are 4 brackets, or rather like screws.
Look at
in here with brackets and holders right.
Look at that mess. It kind of looks like a person got drunk and vomited onto a CPU. Honestly, I seen preschoolers that drawn better than that. Hell, I even seen 3-year-olds apply thermal paste better than that. If you guys seen Linus when he built with his 3-year-old daughter, she done that better than that. This guy. Alright, let's continue on, because I'm about to pull Mr. Grinch here. 49.5 to pull, yo.
Here, and they're going to keep the cooler raised off the processor, but it's also going to be close enough to actually physically come in contact with it, like basically keep it cool. Take thumb screws like this and just screw them on. So now that our internals are done, we're going to put all the panels back on, which is the top glass, side glass, front glass, and of course the back panel where all this fun stuff.
Wait.
Brace that you can see on the bottom left corner, and make sure that everything actually extra cooler to the top end of the processor. So you're going to see that there are 4 brackets. So now that our internals are done, we're going to put all the panels back. Built the PC, everything's where all this fun stuff is happening. So we fully built.
What the hell is that? So that's his 24 pin. Yeah. I don't know what the hell is that. But he literally has cables going all over the place. There, his 24 pin, and here's his HD audio just laying on the ground right there. God. Look, I've seen robots that are in beta that has better cable management than this. Hell, I even seen 6-year-old kids do better cable management than that. I mean, I even seen the insides of cars. You know, when you work on them, stuff like that, it has better cable management than that. I even eaten spaghetti straighter than that. The hell, man.
Built the PC.
All you need is just like 20 seconds of cable management. That's it. That's good. Yeah, bro.
Things put together, and we got to the post screen. So what's...
Yeah, he should be lucky, because some of the boards, they won't even let you post if you have the RAM like that.
Next? Well, you need a USB flash drive with your Windows installation media on it, and of course, a license key. So
sometimes you don't really need one. You can just use like the free trial. I mean, you can just skip it. But it will, I mean, this happened on my computer. It will give you like a little watermark right here. I don't think you guys can see it because of my face cam overlay, but on the bottom right corner, it'll give you an overlay of activating Windows. But I will take that any day of the week.
I plugged that up, installed Windows in a couple of minutes, installed a bunch of drivers, and now we have a fully functioning gaming PC ready to run some games. Right now I've got Arma 3 running at maximum settings, native resolution, which is 1080p HD, and it's running pretty smoothly. Like, I'm averaging 70 and 80 FPS, and this is normally like a very intensive game to run, and it's still doing a pretty good job. So right now I'm playing League of Legends. It's one of my favorite games. I'm actually playing against...
Bruh. Are you playing League of Legends on that? So, funny story. I was playing League of Legends on this computer a little bit ago. Remember, this is a dual core with a GTX 650, and I think it ran like pretty well. I did not have a frame counter on, but I think it ran pretty good. The minimum requirements is a single core CPU for League of Legends. Playing that like that, I mean, on that computer, is like a huge embarrassment. When I say embarrassment, I mean it's like a huge embarrassment. I mean, like, why don't you, like, I know, here's one other intensive game. Ark Survival Evolved, GTA 5, Black Ops 4, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Tomb Raider, and Mankind Divided. Mankind Divided, that's a really hard game to run. I can say that off the top of my head, and I'm shaking my desk. Maybe, like, Infinite Warfare. You know, you guys might think it's trash.
It's a bot, and I'm distracted, so I'm not...
How does he not even have 50 HP? And he's going against bots. That's just sad. That is just sad.
Not actually doing so well. But otherwise, like, this is pretty much what you would see me do on a gaming computer. Test stuff out, and hopefully have really high frame rates like I am right now. I'm averaging 120 FPS, and that's only because I've actually locked the game to that frame rate, because I can get around 300 FPS playing League.
And my phone just goes off, but honestly, his computer is overkill for that game. I mean, the reason why he capped it is because his monitor did not support it, and it might have been giving him some ghosting or some tearing or stuff like that. I mean, maybe not tearing, but it might give him some issues or stuff like that. Just that's why he had to cap it at that monitor's refresh rate. Like this monitor is, I have 2 monitors in my room and I have a couple downstairs. I need these. I'll check my desk. This one is 60 hertz. The one I have right next to it is 75. It's like an old Sync Master though. Alright, let's see what else he's doing.
On maximum settings, which is a little bit absurd, and you don't really need that. So
if you're a competitive gamer like I am sometimes, I mean, sometimes I am a competitive gamer. In certain games, like GTA or certain Call of Duties, I'm competitive. And trust me, the more frame rate you have, the more the better. I'm just gonna say that. Yo. You don't get computers right, I'm gonna beat you up, yo.
So I locked it. Building a gaming desktop has been a great experience. I'm able to max out a lot of my favorite titles, and I'll be able to play a lot of upcoming titles like Battlefield 5 and Cyberpunk 2077 without worrying too much about the parts I have. When ray tracing GPUs come out, for example, I'll be able
They are already out.
to upgrade without having to buy a completely new system. And if I have a problem down the line, I can always just swap out a part and have it serviced rather than losing my whole computer. And of course now we also have a computer to test and benchmark games here at the Verge.
Capital One. Look, I think you guys might as well have a 15-year-old computer geek that couldn't even get a girl on his side to show you how to build a computer. I mean, I can do so much better than that. That's just a huge spaghetti mess. I mean, for real, Capital One, you guys can do better. I mean, hell, a lot of people are even lucky to get, like, responses back from Capital One, because that's a huge company. Disappointed, yo.
Thanks for watching. Let me know if you've built a computer before yourself.
Now, I am actually kind of scared to upload this because the last time that somebody, so you guys know, Bitwit, which is this guy right here. So he pretended to be his like alter ego, Lyle, and he was reacting to the same vid. But then Phil Esposito and The Verge, they actually sent him a copyright strike onto his channel. And they've been acting like total assholes about it, which is not cool. If I see any of that happening in person, yo, I'm gonna beat them up. But I don't blame the host. I mainly blame the director and the producer. I mainly blame these 3 people because they should have done like a better job and did like more and more research. This is a huge embarrassment to a tech company like The Verge. Ugh. Look, I can build computers better than that. Because I have. But alright, I don't know what to say, and I'm about to cringe myself halfway to death. So, anyways,